The 24-year-old Marine who performed a lethal chokehold on 30-year-old Jordan Neely on a New York City subway is in custody. Now, Daniel Penny turned himself in to authorities on Friday and is now facing manslaughter charges, which bring the possibility of 15 years in prison. Manhattan prosecutors announced Thursday that they would bring this criminal charge against Penny for his chokehold of a man, Jordan Neely, who witnesses claim was acting erratically but was not a danger to Penny or anyone else on the F train that day. Thomas Kenneth, one of Penny's attorneys, said Penny turned himself in, quote, voluntarily, and with the sort of dignity and integrity that is characteristic of his history of service to this grateful nation. So yeah, we already know that this is a thing. Asked how Penny was feeling, Kenneth said his client is dealing with the situation, like I said, with the sort of integrity and honor that is characteristic of who he is, and characteristic of his honorable service to the United States Marine Corps. That's a long way of saying nothing. None of that has anything to do with what he did. Now, what he did was cause the death of a mentally ill man who had been screaming and begging for money aboard the train. He was hungry and thirsty. He had not gotten physical with anyone. There was no reason to defend, anyone or himself. No reason to claim self-defense if there was no violence. And yet, again, that's what Penny's attorneys claim. Oh, no, he had it in self-defense when he restrained Neely. But again, it's not self-defense if Neely wasn't getting violent. It's assault. Neely then died as a result of being restrained. That's manslaughter. A second-degree manslaughter charge in New York will require a jury to find that a person has engaged in reckless conduct that creates an unjustifiable risk of death and then consciously disregards that risk. That's what it looks like to me. Now, look, doctors have been warning people for some time that chokeholds are dangerous. Okay? The fact that he chose a chokehold to restrain this young man to the point where he died, again, we know chokeholds. You shouldn't use them. Now, according to Dr. Altaf Sadi, a neurologist at Massachusetts General Hospital, chokeholds and strangleholds kill or cause brain injuries in two different ways. They can compress the trachea, preventing the person from getting air into the lungs, and can compress the carotid, which are on either side of the neck adjacent to the trachea. 70% of the blood going to the brain passes through carotids. Dr. Sadi said, if that blood flow is cut off in a chokehold or a stranglehold, some people can become unconscious in 3 to 4 seconds. If the flow continues to be restricted, a person can die within 3 to 4 minutes. If a person loses consciousness, that is an indication of possible injury to the brain. Even if the person does not lose consciousness, strokes and permanent brain damage, including cognitive impairment, can result from a chokehold. In a paper published in 2020 in JAMA Neurology, Dr. Sadi and his colleagues wrote, the possibility of devastating repercussions is too high to merit the use of neck restraints in any circumstance. The American Academy of Neurology has also come out firmly against neck compressions. In a position paper, the organization wrote that the mantra in its field is time is brain, meaning that brain tissue dies quickly when blood flow is stopped. The group notes that in strokes, when an area of the brain is deprived of blood, 1.9 million neurons die each minute before blood flow is restored. In a position statement, the group wrote that such techniques are inherently dangerous in nature and strongly encouraged all law enforcement personnel and policymakers to classify neck restraints at a minimum as a form of deadly force. They added a recommended prohibition of the technique because there's no amount of training or method or of application of neck restraints that can mitigate the risk of death or permanent profound neurologic damage with this maneuver. At the end of the day, this is not a safe method to subdue anyone, and it should never be used. And police departments have banned it. The Department of Justice banned it in 2021. And look, there are several Marines out there that have gone public here, and they've said, look, you shouldn't be using this at all. This is not what we're taught. According to Military Times, one of the Marines that are questioning Penny's actions is Gabriel Murphy. So now Murphy says that Penny did not act in accordance with the training that Marines receive. Quote, let's see. Murphy, he has a similar military service record as Penny, and argued in a petition that the individual who choked Mr. Neely to death should be prosecuted for murder. Quote, I hope that the military community joins me in disavowing the actions of this individual. In an interview with military.com, Murphy said that training on chokeholds is not something you touch once in boot camp and then go to forget about. I can tell you, just living at the barracks or being on an MEU or just existing in 1-5, we did some of that stuff constantly, and a lot of it was informal. Saying that his training, MAP training, is not designed to be non-lethal or safe. Again, there's no safe way to choke someone. Murphy said that Marines teach close combat techniques only in the frame of repelling an enemy assault. And even then, those techniques are all taught essentially as you screwed up and now somebody's grappling with you. You're basically starting to kill them, and then you have to decide when to stop. So this is, again, a way to kill someone, not subdue someone.